everyone. I'm Shannon Bream along with Kaylee McEnany, Jessica Tarlov, Charlie Hurt, and Greg Gutfeld. It is 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. I love Greg's liberal use of jazz hands today. It speaks to what's coming on the show. Okay, is Kamala Harris the kiss of death for Democrats in the midterms? Well, the former VP mostly leads in hypothetical 2028 polls. A growing list of 2026 Democratic candidates seem to be, well, they want to be unburdened by what has been. Alaska's Senate candidate Mary Peltola publicly rejecting Kamala's support, while two Democrats running in Iowa flat out saying no to Harris offering to join them on the campaign trail. Watch this.
Would you want to have Joe Biden here campaign for you?
No. Can he even do that right now? I'm sorry.
How about Kamala Harris?
No, thanks. Let's move on. We need some new leadership.
Johnson was recently interviewed, asked if Kamala Harris should campaign for him. He flatly said no. What do you think? No.
Maybe it's just others offering her up, but she doesn't seem to be taking the hint with every new video she posts, like this one.
He's trying to make it more difficult for you to vote by mail. By the way, he votes by mail from Mar-a-Lago, but he doesn't want you to vote by mail. He is worried he is going to lose the midterms. They are cheating. They are trying to cheat, and we have got to turn out in big numbers and be too big to rig.
Well, Kamala also appeared to be missing from the speaker lineup today. A who's who of Democrats descended on Washington for a rally marking the anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. But several other possible 2028 contenders did get to the microphone. Check this out.
There is a tide rising in this country, brothers and sisters. They can put obstacles in our path, but they cannot turn us back around. And this November, the first of many tides is coming to respond to every right they are trying to take. The tide is coming, and this time we intend to win it all.
But Kaylee, I'm not sure who the Democrats know is their leader. Is it her? Is it somewhere else? They seem to be having a bit of an identity crisis.
I think it's a great question, but I think we know the lane from which that leadership will come, and it is the far left progressive lane. Look, these more moderate, centrist Democratic candidates not wanting to campaign with Kamala Harris, she's admittedly not maybe the sharpest of candidates always, but I think it's less about her and more about not wanting to be affiliated with this far left lane of the party. But this far left lane of the party is here to stay, and there is going to be a reckoning. And it may be today, it may be after the midterms, it will certainly happen in 2028. In Florida, you have Angie Nixon. She's a DSA member. In Colorado, you have Malak Quiros. Michigan, you've got Abdul El Sayed, far left progressive. Maine, Troy Jackson. The list goes on. New York, Chevalier. So these candidates are winning nominations. You look at Gallup, 66% of Democrats like socialism. So that is the vast majority of the party, 66%. And then you look at the 2028 rankings. You've got Kamala Harris, number one in the average of polls, progressive. Number two, Newsom, progressive. Number three, Pete Buttigieg, less progressive. Number four, AOC, progressive. The trend is progressive, 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 and in most cases, socialist, communist. Newsom says he would campaign with DSA members. He said he'd do it gladly. Hillary Clinton even, she's more of the moderate lane of the party, says that it's an experiment. They're going to see how it works out. Well, that experiment failed in Cuba. That experiment failed in Venezuela. But nevertheless, let's try it, right? And then AOC just renewed her DSA membership. So the blue dog Democrat, that's an extinct species in the Democratic Party. The progressive pole is here to stay, and the entire party has moved left. But that lane cannot win a general election in this country.
Well, Jessica, what about that? Because we've talked about Third Way and other groups advising the left, like, do not do this. See, you may have this flirtation during the primaries, but it's not going to work in the general. But it seems like we move very quickly from Vice President Harris is the standard bearer, she is your presidential nominee, to now some of these candidates are saying, like, no, thank you, do not even show up here, I don't want you.
Well, I feel like Kamala Harris stopped being the standard bearer the day after the election in 2024. And that's when people started doing the various autopsies, ones that were released and ones that were not, that told the story of what happened in 2024. And the record that was very hard to run on from the Biden-Harris administration, and the mistakes that were made during the campaign, and what Republicans did right and what Donald Trump did right. But the idea that the moderate Democrat is an extinct species, when we just played sound of 3 of them that are doing very well in their races, you know, out there campaigning and charting their own course forward, essentially being their own leadership until we have a nominee for president in 2028, sounds pretty reasonable to me, frankly. And they're running in red states. This makes sense. I had Josh Turek on my podcast. I asked him, who do you want to come campaign with you from the national stage? He said, nobody, thank you. Who's the person who he did let come? Barack Obama. And they've only had a handful of Democrats in Iowa generally, Pete Buttigieg, Mark Kelly, the former president, in Obama. Kevin McCarthy, I think, had one of the most sober takes on all of this. He was on America's Newsroom with Dana and Bill, and he was talking about the landscape, you know, focusing on Iowa, saying that he thinks Ashley Hinson is the strongest Senate candidate that the Republicans have. You know, I'm optimistic about Josh Turek, but I understand that she's a good candidate. But he said that he's nervous that we're up 6 on the generic ballot, which means something in terms of the results, and that there are congressional seats down ballot in Iowa that you have to defend, that there are 4 of them. And he said there are going to be some tough ones. Running clips of DSA members is not an election strategy when you have to defend seats and you have to make your own case. It's the low-hanging fruit of politics right now.
It's out there, and it definitely gives a talking point to Republicans who, you know, say, well, let's nationalize some of these candidates, especially the further left. And this, you know, flirtation of hanging out with Hassan Piker. And there are Democrats that I've asked and I've interviewed who will disavow him, as I know you have too. But then they'll also in the same breath say, but we have to leave room in our tent for people that we find unpalatable and disagree with on some counts. So they're figuring that out. In the meantime, I think, Kayla, you mentioned that Gavin Newsom is going south. He's going to South Carolina. Charlie, how do you think Governor Newsom is going to play in the South? Because the South does not like slick, but they also don't like patronizing.
No, they don't. And they tend, and of course, South Carolina is where Joe Biden's presidential career was salvaged. Because you had him against the more socialist wing of the party, and the sane Democrat or more sane Democrat voters in South Carolina were like, we don't want any of that. We'll go with the old white guy that we can have seen for a long time, and they'll stick with that. I think part of the reason that the polls show Kamala ahead is kind of reveals just how unreliable I think polls are at this point about a primary election that's still yet over a year away. But for Democrats, I mean, I think that they are looking at a future that is every bit as bleak as their past is right now. And I think that the reason for that is because they are bankrupt of ideas. And they don't, the last big idea they had was Obamacare. And Obamacare has been, has exploded the cost of health care. And I know that it was already trending upward, but this has not helped. It ruined a lot of people's health care. And so they're sort of going with these personalities, and you wind up with some real wackos like Graham Plattner or Hassan Piker, like hanging out with these candidates who don't really know how to distance themselves or embrace him because they really want his followers. And what is their? They have no ideas. Meanwhile, across the aisle, you have President Trump, who's an idea machine. Every day, he is coming up with ideas, and a lot of them are really, really smart ideas and transformational ideas. And the only thing Democrats right now can talk about is this Medicare for all, which is socialized government medicine that nobody wants. It's not going to work, and of course, it'll destroy one of the most popular programs there is, which is Medicare. For elderly people. And so I think that, obviously the headwinds are against Republicans for all the historic reasons, but I think that until the right person with the right personality and some ideas steps forward, I think they're going to be in the wilderness.
Well, and as a lot of these candidates say, it's not the former vice president for them. As you mentioned, I mean, she shows up at the top of polling for 28, which I think a lot of that is name recognition, I think, in that kind of polling. But Greg, when we now have this other tool, when you look to the prediction markets.
Really?
because I know you like to gamble and do all that kind of stuff. You live on the edge.
I do live on the edge.
Those have a slightly different picture. In fact, the last couple days I was checking on these, the top Democrat tends to be AOC, at least on the prediction markets, even if she's not there yet.
She's riding a tide. She is riding a tide. She gave me a new nickname for all these Democrats that are kissing the DSA ass. Call them Tide Pods. Because they're all acting the same, saying the same crap. Kamala required something like 15 edits in 47 seconds of footage. It's like they're stitching together a nice little boat ride from footage of the Titanic. You know, they're going to need Michael Bay to make her appealing and almost coherent. It's kind of a trend among a lot of these modern Democrats is that they lost the ability to talk in a practical fashion because they got so immersed in like the therapy, HR, academic jargon that when you try to get them to speak, it's like they forget how to talk, so you got to edit it all together. It's why, and I've said this before to you, Shannon, privately, we need to bring back game shows like Match Game 75, remember that? Or
Card Sharks?
Yeah, no, they have to have celebrity panels because we need a place to put the Kamalas and the Crockett's and the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Thomas Masseys and the George Santos. We need these people who are constantly talking. We need to give them in a place where they can talk and have fun and kind of not bother us at all. Bigger point, we keep talking about far left DSA Democrats and sane moderates. If there was only a way to distinguish them, because it's like we always talk about them. And it's like, wow, we never talk about how to tell which one's which.
Let me help you.
Yeah, but you not even you do it because I'm waiting for the moment in which these sane Democrats repudiate the positions they took on issues that crushed them, not because it was a political mistake, but because it was a moral or an intelligent mistake. The trans issue, the border, and crime. I haven't heard any real repudiation from any of the major players on these issues because they're too busy playing kissy face with the DSA and indulging this Big Tent fallacy that got them in trouble in the first place. They let in some terrible ideas. So I would love to see the differentiation. I would love to see a rebirth of the Democratic Party because I think more sanity is good. But why aren't the moderates doing it? Why aren't the moderates saying, here's why I'm different? I don't believe you should chop off children's weenies. I don't believe men should be able to dress as women and do sports. I don't believe rapists can be put in female prisons. I believe you should deport violent criminals. But you're not hearing that because they're still operating in this tent of cowardice. They're afraid. They're afraid, and they shouldn't be.
Well, remember when we've heard some of those ideas from like the Congressman Seth Moulton's or even Governor Gavin Newsom at some point, it was immediately a pushback to them.
Seth Moulton was a coward. He said one thing and then he backed off. I think the only person maybe was what's-his-face, the ballet dancer.
Ballet dancer.
Ballet.
What's his name?
Baryshnikov?
No, the dude that was Obama's guy, mayor of Chicago.
Oh, Rahm Emanuel.
Yeah.
Oh, which, by the way, he's going to be on Fox News Sunday.
He's the only
He's a ballerino.
He's the only person that has tried to put his foot in the moderate pool.
I'm going to make you a mixtape of Rob Sand interviews.
And
you're going to
I know what you're
going to
say. Who?
Rob Sand.
That's the guy who's going to be governor of Iowa.
For distancing from Kamala, I heard a Rob Sand and Mary Patola. Never heard of them before.
Right. And Josh
it works.
I've said it to you. You just were blacked out.
I was.
Okay.
Blacked out from joy.
Yes, not drunkenness, as per usual. Okay, guys.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.